Hi everyone, welcome back to another What I Eat in a Day as a vegan. And so for breakfast one day recently I made a coconut and blueberry muffin bake. I first preheated the oven to 180 degrees Celsius, and for this I added half a cup of rolled oats, half a cup of coconut flour, 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed, a pinch of salt, half a cup of blueberries, 1 cup of coconut milk and 4 tablespoons of maple syrup together in a bowl. I mixed it all together lightly and then I placed that in a small baking dish and popped it in the oven to bake for around 35 to 40 minutes. I tend to just gently mix it up with a fork halfway through, which gives it a really fluffy texture. Then I removed it from the oven and left it to cool. I then took some Coyo vanilla bean yogurt and layered that up in a bowl with the muffin bake and finished with some fresh blueberries on the top. You could make this with many other fruits. Raspberries and strawberries would also work really well, but blueberry muffins are one of my favourite things. Sometimes I just think up recipes exactly like I did with this one, and it turned out exactly how I imagined it to be. The texture is perfect, really moist, although I hate using that word. It's exactly like a crumbled blueberry muffin, and it just makes for such a great breakfast paired with the vanilla bean coconut yogurt. For a snack before lunch I had a naked lemon drizzle bar. These are just my favourite at the moment. As I've mentioned previously, these literally taste like lemon drizzle cake. You would never know the difference, yet these are just simply made with dates, raisins, almonds, coconut, cashews and lemon. Just really great for a snack that's not too heavy, when you fancy something a little bit sweet, or for when you're on the move. For lunch I made a creamy courgette and spinach soup. I first sliced up 1 white onion and then I added 1 teaspoon of olive oil to a large pan and turned the heat up to medium. I then added in the onions and cooked those off until they became soft. Next I added in 2 minced cloves of garlic, fried those off too, and then I roughly chopped up 3 courgettes, added those to the pan as well, and I cooked them down for around 5 minutes. Next I poured in half a pint of vegetable stock and 200 millilitres of coconut milk. This one is by Coco. It gives the perfect amount of creaminess and their entire range is coconut based, so I'll link to their website down below. I gave it a really good stir together, and then next I added in 2 large handfuls of fresh spinach, a small handful of fresh torn basil and also some fresh thyme. I seasoned it really well with some salt and black pepper, and then I grated in some nutmeg, gave it another good stir, brought it up to a boil and then left it to simmer with the lid on for around 20 minutes. I then transferred it all into a blender, blended it up until it was nice and smooth, and then I poured it back into the pan to then just heat it through again. I then served that up in a bowl, added on a little more coconut milk that was just left in the bottom of the can, and finished it with some more fresh basil. This is actually such a great soup for summer because it's not too heavy, it's just very light, creamy, and it packs so much flavour. This actually makes 2 portions. I placed the other half in a container once it was cool, and then I popped it in the freezer, and I would probably use that up within the next week or so, just so that I'm eating it whilst it's still as fresh as possible. For an afternoon snack I made some herby fried tomato puree on some Inspiral crackers. For this I just first heated 1 teaspoon of olive oil in a frying pan, and then I added in 2 tablespoons of tomato puree. Next I added in half a teaspoon of mixed herbs, half a teaspoon of dried parsley, a quarter of a teaspoon of dried garlic, and seasoned it with some salt and black pepper. I fried that off for a good few minutes, and then I took some of these Inspiral raw tomato crackers on a plate and I spread over the fried tomato puree. These crackers are so delicious. They're air-dried nut, seed and vegetable crackers with Moroccan spices, cacao and ginseng, and they come in a few different flavours, and the herby fried tomato puree works so well with them. It's so flavourful and and it would pair really nicely with oat cakes and any other crisp breads. For dinner we had spaghetti and mushroom meatballs. I first roughly chopped up one white onion and I added that to a pan with a drop of olive oil. I cooked those down on a medium heat and then I added in 3 minced cloves of garlic and fried those off as well. I roughly chopped up 300 grams of mushrooms, added those in as well and cooked them down. Then I added in 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, 1 small handful of fresh parsley, a teaspoon of dried herbs. I seasoned it with salt and black pepper and then I splashed in a good amount of vegan Worcester sauce. I continued to cook that right down for around 10 minutes until the mixture was as dry as possible, and then I transferred it over to a food processor and just pulsed it until it was minced. I then added in 2 tablespoons of oat flour and 2 tablespoons of brown rice flour and pulsed it again until it was all mixed together well. I then took a tablespoon of the mix at a time in the palm of my hand and formed them into small balls. This should make 14 in total, and I placed them on a lined baking tray in the preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. In that time I took some of the Mr. Organic seitan ragu sauce and I poured that out into the large pan where I originally cooked the meatball mix, and I just let it warm through. Then I placed some spelt spaghetti in a pan of boiling salt water to cook. I then removed the mushroom meatballs from the oven and placed half of them in the sauce and allowed them to finish cooking through in there until the spaghetti was done. I then divided the pasta up between 2 bowls and added the meatballs and the leftover sauce on top, and I finally finished it with some fresh basil. I usually make my own pasta sauce and I'll link to my favourite homemade marinara sauce down below, but if I do use jarred, Mr. Organic is one of the only ones I'll use. It's all organic, everything is vegan friendly. This seitan one is amazing. It's a little bit spicy and it has tiny pieces of seitan in it too, and it just speeds up the rest of the cooking since the meatballs take a little while to make. I'm so happy with this new recipe. It's one of my favourites now. You can use the meatballs for meatball subs, pasta bakes, on pizza. They're so versatile and they just taste so incredible. Also, if you have any leftover meatballs like I did, they can be frozen on their own or frozen in a sauce, and then you can just defrost and reheat it when you want to eat them. They can be frozen for a while, but again, I would eat them within a week or so whilst they're still nice and fresh. For dessert I just had some yogurt stuffed raspberries and a few chocolate chunks. For this I just simply stuffed a handful of fresh raspberries with some of the leftover Coyo vanilla bean yogurt that I had for breakfast. I placed those in a bowl and then I took some of the seed and bean, coconut and raspberry dark chocolate and I added a couple of chunks of that in too. This chocolate is so good. All of the seed and bean dark chocolate range is vegan friendly and they do such a great range of flavours. But I thought this one paired quite well with the raspberries and yogurt, which just makes for such a great snack or dessert. You could even pop them in the freezer for a couple of hours too for a frozen yogurt stuffed raspberry version. And that is it for another day on my plate. As always, all of the recipes will be written up in the description box below. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next one. Bye!